Old stories like long lost friends, rodeos and late night bends, history before our time, round pens and pasture rides, cowboys of the Osage.
Howdy, friends and neighbors. Time once again for the Cowboys of the Osage podcast with your host, Jimbo Snively and Cody Garnett. Now let's sing a little bit about it. Cowboys of the Osage, riding once again. Always got some time for a friend. And here they are, the Cowboys of the Osage.
Howdy, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Cowboys of the Osage podcast. Brought to you by the Ben Johnson Cowboy Museum and the Buck and Flamingo Turquoise Shop, both located in historic downtown Pawhuska, Oklahoma. Hey, it's old Cody over here, and as always, I have my main man with me, Mr. Rodeo Historian himself, Jimbo Snively. Morning, Jimbo. Who are we talking to today?
Hey, Cody boy, it's a great day in Osage, man. And we're talking to Trey Quinn, and he's a ex-steer roper, you know, PRC steer roper.
Rope pretty good, too.
Yeah,
Took some of my money.
Rope good, and he's got the Quinn Beef Company there in Texas. And got a lot to talk about that. And he also, his dad helped start the Windy Ryon roping. He knows all about the history of that. And he went to the old post steer ropings out there at Prather's back in the day. And he was a kid and hung around there. So we got a lot of old history of those two jackpots to talk about. And we're going to get right into it. Trey, welcome to the Cowboys of the Osage podcast.
Well, you bet. Thank you guys for giving me a call. I appreciate it.
Well, we're glad to have you.
He stopped by Pawhuska the other day, Jimbo.
Really?
Yep.
Well, yeah, that shop's something else. That was great.
Where'd you grow up at, Trey?
You know, I grew up here in Fort Worth. Believe it or not, I grew up here. My dad had a veterinary supply business for about 40 years there in the stockyards. My mom was a banker, and we actually grew up right here in Fort Worth. Right. So,
boy, howdy. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
What
got you into roping? Was your dad a roper?
No, he wasn't. You know, it was pretty interesting. His big customers were those ranches like the Sixes and the Wagners and all that. So we were around there all the time, and I kind of grew up with a rope in my hand, believe it or not, even though we did live in town. And that's kind of all I ever wanted to do as a kid. I'd sit up there and rope. And I got lucky enough to be around some pretty good guys as a kid. You know, Bobby Thompson and some of those old ranch managers for the Sixes. And I decided I wanted to do what they did. So we roped all the time.
I knew Bobby. He was a really nice guy.
Oh, I thought he was a prince of a man, and really he was good to me. As a kid, I used to go out there every Christmas and summers and every vacation, it seemed like, and I'd stay there at Paducah at the Triangles with him.
He was Tuffy's brother, Cody. Bobby was.
Yep. And I sure learned a lot. I was probably 11 or 12 when I started going out there, but boy, it was something else.
Yeah.
You know, one time they had a big Roy Cooper roping in Paducah, Texas, before he had them in Childress, I think. Yep. It was a big invitational calf roping and steer roping, and one of the coolest things I've ever seen at a roping. There was a calf roper by the name of Ty Hayes, national finalist, but he showed up in a Corvette in a black leather fringe jacket and got out, won the roping.
Wow!
Pulled his Corvette right by the roping box when he got out.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
Well, did you just naturally take up steer roping, or did you do some calf roping too, or team roping?
No, I started out roping calves mainly, as a kid, and then in high school, and rodeoed some at A&M, went to A&M and roped calves there. And then I moved up the Panhandle after I got out of school, and there weren't as many calf ropings up there around Dumas, Texas. A lot of team roping. And but I'd always been around the steer roping, with Bobby, and then obviously around the Windy Ryon, and I just always wanted to. And we just got to doctoring a lot of cattle outside, and that's kind of where I learned how to, at least to handle cattle a little bit, or tried to anyway. And it just kind of grew from there, to be honest with you. Took a long time to kind of get so I could do it, but I was always just enthralled with it. I always wanted to rope steers, just always. And that's kind of how it started, but mainly roping calves. And I don't know, I couldn't beat most of those guys most of the time, so I thought, well, maybe I'll try something else.
That calf rope is too hard to work to stay up on your
A
game.
work.
I tell you what, there weren't as many, down there where I went to school at A&M, there's a roping every night, and you could go somewhere and, Ricky Canton and Joe and Fred and all of them be at all those jackpots, and I get humbled quite a bit.
Right. Imagine.
Oh man. But, they got up to the Panhandle. There just weren't, there weren't as many calf roping jackpots, but there were plenty of the rodeos, but, there are a lot of team ropers up there. And so it got so it was easier to go to. And then I got so I could kind of rope. I team roped in high school, and I could kind of rope some horns. And so it just made it easy. And so I got to heading quite a bit, and, actually roped with Rocky Patterson a lot up there when we were, in the late 80s. So anyway, that's kind of how it started, I think. So
he's a dang good roper, old Rocky. One of the best I've ever seen.
Imagine.
Hey,
Oh,
Trey,
man.
you were talking about roping cattle outside. I know what that is. Jimbo knows what it is. Explain it to some of the people that listen to this that don't know what that is.
Oh, you bet. We had cattle turned out on weed or on grass, and we'd need to doctor them. And a lot of those places up there, there's not a set of pens where you could drive, especially a sick animal, to treat him. So we would rope them outside. They weren't horn cattle. I mean, they're all muleys and yearlings, and rope them and then lay them down. In other words, strip them to get them doctored. And that's kind of where I got so I could lay one down. You had to do it all pretty right. Because there were no fences, horse runoff or anything like that. So it's a lot of setting cattle up and then you get them laid down, get them tied, and then doctor them. So I did that for a long time, and sure helped build a lot of horses. But that's how we doctored cattle up there in the Panhandle for forever. And anyway, it just kind of teach you how to really set something up and to lay cattle down without stressing them or hurting them. And so that's kind of that's what it is for us.
Now I guess everybody uses dart guns, or do they still do some of that, laying them down out in the pasture?
There's a lot more guns up there. Yeah. I mean, even guys that I thought would never be using dart guns, and it's just so much quicker. And then the medicines now, the dosages are different, and everything's under the skin, so you can treat a lot more cattle a lot quicker. But I think there's a whole lot of, me included, I've got a couple of dart guns in my pickup, as a matter of fact. So,
well, if you walk around out where the people do that, you find those darts everywhere laying on the ground.
Oh, I know it. And anyway, we use them quite a bit, especially for pink eye and stuff. But there's a lot more of that.
Got to be better on the cattle, less stressful and everything, you'd think. Have to be.
No, I think it is. It's not near as much fun.
No, not much fun for the cowboy, but it's got to be better on the cattle.
You don't make near as good horses either.
Right.
I know it. It's
You know, when I first moved up here, Jimbo, I was day working out here for one of the drumming ranches. Mm-hmm. And one of the drumming guys, the guy that owned the ranch, was there that day. We were gathering all his cattle, going to work his calves. Anyway, we had this one that ran off from the bunch, and hell, I just went and roped him and drug him in the pen. And
drummers don't do that.
Well, no. And all the cowboys that were there said, boy, you probably shouldn't have done that. I've never seen anybody do that here. You know, that kept going on and on because I was really expecting to get in some big trouble. Yeah. And luckily I didn't, but I didn't rope anymore and drag them in there after that.
Yeah. Yeah. I've told this story before, but Ike Rude, back when he was just a big old kid, and I don't know if he was at the Four Sixers or where he was working, but anyway, he roped. If he was on a ranch, he was going to rope their cattle, and they were branding cattle one day, and there was some young kid there that didn't like Ike, and he was trying to get him in trouble, and the boss was there, and this kid mouthed off and said, "You can tell everywhere Ike Rude's been on this ranch by just following the crippled cattle," and I guess Ike knocked him down with the branding iron.
I'll be done. Yeah.
So Trey, your dad grew up in Fort Worth there. You grew up right in the stockyards, pretty much.
He did, yes, yeah. He, he went to school here in Fort Worth, and then he went to A&M and got a degree, and they called it animal husbandry back then. And then came back in like 1949, and I think he worked for a farm, a veterinary supply, and then he opened his own in the early 50s, right there in the stockyards. So, back then at Fort Worth, that was a terminal market, right? I mean, everybody, all the big ranches, they bring cattle in here to sell, and then you had Swift and Armor and the packing houses there. So it was a hustling kind of place and just a lot of activity. So he had that veterinary supply business there for 40 years, and it was literally right next door to Ryan's Western store. But yeah, he did that, and his customers were a lot of the big ranches, a lot of the ranches around here, and because back then there were quite a few, and there's still some pretty decent sized places here. But then the Sixes, like I said, were probably his biggest customer, and so we got to be really good friends with them, over the years. And Jay Pumphrey, who ran the Burnett Estates for years and years, they were good friends, just great friends. And so anyway, I made a lot of trips as soon as I got a driving permit when I was 15 to Guthrie to deliver medicine on a Saturday evening or Sunday morning. And if Mr. Gipson called up and needed medicine. So I did a lot of those trips, but it was cool as a kid because all those ranch managers were in Fort Worth about twice a year. They'd come in for the rodeo, and then they'd come in for the cutting, the MCHA cutting, if Futurity was here. So, it was just kind of a neat deal, little different atmosphere back then.
Holy moly. I was in Fort Worth last week and took my family down there to do some business. And can you believe what's happened down there just in the last, I don't even know, 25 years?
Oh, it's unbelievable what they've done. And I guess you can look at it two different ways, but I mean, I'll tell you what it's done for all the businesses down there has been just unbelievable. And the people wanting to be involved. And I mean, I'm the same way. I drove out there like on a Tuesday last week I don't even remember what I was doing. I think I was going to eat lunch or something. And I looked down Exchange Avenue, and it was packed. I mean, packed full of people. I was like, what in the hell are they doing here?
It's crazy. But, they said that they sell that rodeo out every night. And, heck, when I lived there, I'd ease over to that rodeo and enter the team roping or whatever. Sometimes there wouldn't be 100 people in the stands.
Oh, no. That was, I remember going in the bus, I don't know, when I was young, they used to have a PR, you could go on your permit. It was a permit rodeo. And, there wouldn't be anybody. And now, like you said, you can't get a seat. Unbelievable.
That's what I heard. The guy that announces in there, I ran into him, and he said, "Yeah, you're not going to believe this, but we sell this thing out every single night. You know, we may have a PBR bull riding or a rodeo or a Mexican rodeo.
Coliseum, the old Coliseum?
The old Coliseum, yeah.
My grandfather rode there in the 30s. It hadn't been open too long.
Yeah, it's a cool old building, and you know what they've done to it to redo it. It's unbelievable, and man, there's so many people that deserve credit for that. I mean, Pam Minnick and Patrick Gosh, just think of all the people that have been working down there. I mean, the Murrans, everybody, and you know, it's. I remember as a kid, we used to work that rodeo on Saturday nights, and when I say work it, basically we untied calves. We were in 6th grade or something, and it was a rougher area, you know, and it was not someplace you were supposed to be after dark, and we were. And my dad, he did not like us being down there after dark. That's for damn sure.
You know, over there across where that Mule Alley is now, when I was living down there with old Doug Dugan, best I remember, it was just a bunch of old winos and homeless people, you know, just hanging out over there in that part.
Oh, it was, yeah, and it was rough. I mean, it was a rough area, and so, I mean, that's been a long, you know, it's been a long process. There's been so much work put into that and thought, and anyway, they've just it's just been outstanding for Fort Worth, and while still trying to keep the heritage there, you know, and the culture, they still want it to be Western, but you know, there's got to be a little bit of give and take, and they've done that. I think they've just done, you know, the Hickmans, they've all done an incredible job, in my opinion. But I'm with you. I was, like I said, I was stunned on last Tuesday or whenever I drove down there, and I looked and I was like, what in the world's going on? I thought they must be giving away something, but they weren't. There were just people there.
It's the #1 family fun destination in America now, and it used to be bars pretty much, you know, yeah. And if you wanted to get in a fight and go get drunk, that was a good place to go.
Do they drive the Longhorns through town every day, or is that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Every hour on the hour or something, right? Jimbo, something like that.
We need to do something like that here in Patterson.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey,
put you in charge of that.
You wouldn't believe there might be 10,000 people down there, and you can't even get to the street to see the Longhorns go by because that's how many people. I've never seen anything like it, Jimbo.
Wow. Crazy.
That's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
You said you used to go out to the post steer roping when you were a kid. What can you tell us about that jackpot?
You know, I remember, you know, back in the day, the 3 big jackpots would have been the Windy Ryon, the OS, and then San Angelo. And those committees all, you know, were good friends. And so they would invite each other out, you know, every year. And I just remember going out with my parents, or, you know, with my parents, right. And then Bo and Patsy Cantrell and Lanham, usually Lanham Riley, and Philip French. They were all part of the Windy Ryon. They're the ones that started the Windy Ryon. And we'd go out there to the OS ranch roping, and it was out there south of Post on the ranch there. And, you know, it was a heck of a deal. They had a big art show usually the night before, and they'd have all those those cowboy artists there, and always some big entertainer. And you got to remember, I was a kid. I couldn't have been more than 8 or 9 years old, but I mean, I remember that old house distinctly. And then the roping would be the next day, and they had I think at the time it was probably one of the bigger steer ropings that there was, as far as money added and everything. But, you know, the one thing that stood out was, you know, back then in Texas anyway, all that added money was Calcutta money. Because they had a Calcutta everywhere. Sure. But that was anyway, I just remember Post. We'd go every year, and I just remember that art show, and then the cattle, you know, big, you know, they all weighed 7 or more, and just big cattle. Let them out there from here to next week to go catch them. Yeah. And it was a heck of a roping, but everybody was there. That's for sure.
Was that on Jim Prather's place?
Yes, it was on the OS. Yes, and I believe that was he was there for several years.
Okay.
Hey, Trey,
Yeah.
you forgot the oldest continuous steer roping in the nation, Ben Johnson Memorial Steer Roping up here when you said that big thing.
That's true. That's true. I
We've
should
been
have
going
said
longer
that.
than
That's
all
my
of
fault.
them put together. So
I believe it. How many years is it?
this is our 72nd year since
That's
1950.
unbelievable.
We started the same year as San Angelo, 1954, but we were in June, and San Angelo was in November, so we're the first.
Right. I think it's amazing. You know, you think about putting one of those on, you know, for that long. I mean, that's an incredible commitment. And anybody that hadn't, you know, C.A. Lauer always used to tell me, he said, just anybody that wants to complain about a roping, tell them to put on a steer roping or own a set of tripping steers, one of the two.
Right.
And, but man, that takes an incredible commitment.
Well, when you think about it, too, Trey, 74 years or whatever it is, that's several different people have to take it up.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because
Absolutely.
now Cody's took up the mantle and he's doing it, but there's been I know dozens of people probably over those 74 years that have took it up. So
Oh, heck yeah.
that is
That's just-
amazing that you can keep a chain going like that for that long.
I just had to set these Texans straight on their big rope ones and let them know we're the biggest in their.
I remember when I was a kid, they said Sonny Davis. I wasn't there to see it or anything, but they just said Sonny Davis tied a steer in 11 at Post, Texas, and that was just unheard of at that time. And
Oh, yeah.
nobody ever tied one in 11 that I know of, and I just remember them talking about that.
If you look back through some of the old, you know, results on 3 or on 4, and, you know, it'd be 80 seconds or 92 seconds or whatever it might have been. But yeah, that must have been a heck of a run.
Yeah, because he could do something like that every once in a while.
No, absolutely. He won the first Windy Ryon.
Did he?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Well, tell us about the Windy Ryon roping. How'd that thing get started? When did it get started?
Well, it's the first one was in 1974, and so Windy Ryon was he was a man here from the Fort Worth area, and he rodeoed. I think he rodeoed quite a bit back in the day, and I think pretty much worked. You know, I think he roped calves and he roped steers and bulldogged, and I think he's pretty handy at it. And anyway, hurt his leg real bad in Idaho at a roping. I think they were roping calves, and he got wrapped up in a rope, and a horse run off and drug him, and he ended up being in the hospital for about a year. And he got started. You know, I'm telling you probably more than you want to know, but he started he got so he couldn't rodeo anymore, so he started a Western retail store, and he also traded some cattle. So that was back in the 50s. And that Western store turned into, you know, for us anyway, down here was kind of the go-to place for anything Western, whether it was saddles or hats or whatever. And he started in the old exchange building there on the north side, and then moved into one of the offices for either Swift or Armour, had an old abandoned building, and then put Ryan's Western store in there. And it was, man, they built just great saddles, and, you know, everything just kind of first class quality on everything. So a lot of people in and out coming down. This is where they would come and shop, and, you know, and Fort Worth anyway, for some of the ranches around here and in Texas, this was kind of their go-to, where Pawhuska might have been the go-to up there for all the big ranches. Fort Worth was kind of that here. And so they would all come in there, and they made saddles for everybody. But anyway, he was super well respected and very well liked. And he had a heart attack and died in 1973. And some of his friends, my dad included, like I said, Bo and Patsy Cantrell, Lanham Riley, Philip French, they decided to put together a benefit and do a roping and to benefit the Heart Association. So that's kind of how it got started. You know, they wanted to do something that was roping oriented, and so they formed a 501 and started the roping, and it benefited the first one's benefited the Heart Association. They had that first one at Mason Bristol's ranch, which is in Aledo, Texas, which is just back to the west of Fort Worth here. That's where they had the first one. And it was kind of interesting, though. They had a calf roping, steer roping, but they also had a bulldog and a bulldogging match, and it was Walt Garrison that they matched. And anyway, Walt Garrison, who was playing for the Dallas Cowboys at the time, he won the bulldogging match.
Oh wow!
So it was pretty cool. But
I bet old Tom Lander just loved him bulldogging during the off season.
I think that was not a good deal. I think he had some clauses in his contract, and he was on the committee later on, but I think he had told me once he had some clauses in the contract that, if he got hurt bulldogging, it was, I don't know if they wouldn't pay it or something like that. But anyway, it was kind of cool. And they had a match open, Ernie Taylor and Ronnie Seawalt matched. And that was the first one. And they had it at that arena there, Mason Bristol's. And then it was a big success. And then the next year they built their own arena out north of Saginaw, Texas, or right around Saginaw, Texas, excuse me. And that's where they had the first roping at the Windy Ryon Arena, and that was in 1975. And they've had it there every year since. And it was a big roping. I mean, big for this area. It was always on Memorial Day weekend and kind of a big gathering spot, But they typically had a bulldogging match, calf roping, match calf roping, and the steer roping.
Most of the bulldogging matches when I was growing up, Jimbo, it seems like they'd match the previous year's world champion against the average winner at the national finals. They even had a guy come in from Canada one time, Chad Bedell to bulldog, I think Rope Myers or somebody, It would just, it was one of the highlights. I got to see Todd Fox bulldog Oak Berry there, and that's one of the best matches I've ever seen, in rodeo, period.
They used to have bulldogging at San Angelo, too, back in the early days.
Was I right about that, Trey? Didn't you guys put the average winner against the world champion if you could?
A lot of times, yeah. That's what they tried to do, and it was all they always had it was always a good match. But yeah, that's exactly what they tried to do. That's how I remember it anyway. I think that's right.
You remember Todd Fox and Oak Berry bulldogging that time, or did I just make that up?
Probably made it up.
No, it sounds good.
Yeah.
So I bet the hell of a match.
I think it was. That old dirt was dry and big old dirt clods, and those guys were sliding those steers.
No, and it was, I tell you, that old arena out there, golly, that was a word. I can't imagine bulldogging that old arena. It was that old black dirt and just heavy and hard, and you go out there after the roping, and you couldn't dig a post hole 6 inches deep in there. That ground was so hard. I can't imagine what it was like to bulldog there. And, it was crazy, but anyway.
Yeah. I just remember those big old hard dirt clods in there and how hard that arena was when those guys were bulldogging. It was a war between two guys, man. It was always a good bulldogging.
Yeah. I remember that match. I can't remember who they matched Sid Steiner against one year. It was right when after he won his world championship, and he looked like he'd been in a fist fight when it was over. His shirt's all ripped up, and that golly. Anyway, there's some good ropings. That old arena's huge out there, and when it was different. I think the thing that changed the most probably is the cattle, because, it was always a hand-pulled barrier. And you let them out there about 25 feet or a little longer, and you hand-pull that barrier. And, those big old footed Corrientes, you could you could catch one before the back end, usually no problem. But I mean, they would always let those cattle out a long way and hand pull that barrier.
Jimbo, we used to supply the cattle there a few times through the years, and one time we got this set of black Mexican steers in, and part of them must have been crossed with Mexican fighting bull big time, because the guy pulling the barrier out there at the line, he got mowed under 2 or 3 times that day by a mean black steer.
One of your steers?
Yeah, one of our steers for sure.
Oh man, it was crazy. But I think that's the thing that's probably changed the most about it, at least on the steer roping side there. Just the cattle are different. So we, had to adjust it over the years and shorten the barrier a bit. It's harder. You can't really hand pull the barrier, and cattle are a little smaller and quicker. So they just had to adjust a little bit. But
when did they add the team ropings and stuff to that?
Cody, that would have been, I think, in the early 90s. So that roping ran, just honestly with, I think, Dad, Bo, and Patsy Lanham, basically doing everything for that for years. And the added money, if there was any, came from the Calcuttas. Well, here in Texas, when they kind of shut down the Calcuttas, and I remember because they shut down San Angelo. They went in there during the Calcutta and shut it down. Well, when the Windy Ryon came up, they didn't have a Calcutta at it that year, and it was tougher for them to raise any money for added money. So I think that's when they started looking at different ways that they could come up to get, added money or get more people through the gate. And I think that's when they added the team roping. And then eventually so that would have probably been I think that happened in Angelo in 86 or 87. And yeah,
who shut it down? The law came in and shut the Calcutta down?
Yes, sir. Okay. Yeah. They came in, and because that's how all these ropings down here anyway raise the money. I can't speak for San Angelo, but I know the OS and the Windy Ryon. I mean, and there were it was a big Calcutta. They were more fun to watch. And I mean, you'd have people in there. I remember as a kid seeing a guy, and I asked my dad, I said, who is that? He said, that's Amarillo Slim. I was like, what the hell? I didn't know who Amarillo Slim was. Mm-hmm. And, but I mean, they all came and played in it. It was a big Calcutta, and they'd use that money, and and it just made the roping better. And so when they did shut that down, and they elected, I guess a better way to say, they elected not to have the Calcutta anymore, so maybe they don't all go to jail.
Makes you wonder who would complained or something to get that happen. Usually they just look the other way. I mean, you'll hear the Husky.
Probably some guy's wife that he lost a bunch of money in the Calcutta year before.
No kidding. Well, and it changed. It just made it tougher. And my dad and Bo and Patsy, I mean, it was all voluntary committee. That's kind of when they said, we need to relook at this. And they went out and started trying to put sponsors together. And I tell you what they did, the smartest thing they ever did, Pam Minnick had moved down here about that time, and she and Billy had gotten married or were getting married, and they got with Pam, and Pam's the one that probably deserves most all the credit for going out and getting those sponsors. So now they had sponsors for added money, and that changed that roping completely. And kind of the old committee started to step out, and some newer ones started stepping in and really upped it with sponsorship. And but Pam gets the credit for all that, in my opinion. She's the one that she's never met a stranger, and all of a sudden they've got Bud Light there and Coors and Justin, and so they got some really good added money, which helped that roping tremendously, and then brought the team roping in, and it's all about bringing people in the gate. I mean, you want the roper. Obviously, you put on a rope, and to get people in the gate, you got to have the best contestants. Well, to get the best contestants, it's got to be big prize money. So it all feeds off each other. And so she was able to get in there and get that sponsorship money, and it changed that event. So it was great. It's been a good event for 50 years. So.
I remember one time, or I think several times when I roped there, Jimbo, they had a great big semi truck from Panhandle Slim there, and every roper that entered got to go over there and get them a free long sleeve shirt from them.
That's cool.
I think I still got one of them hanging in my closet somewhere. That's how old my dang clothes are.
Yeah, they did a lot of neat things, and people, wanted to get involved, and I think I said earlier that the original beneficiary was the American Heart Association, or the Heart Association, and then the next one was the West Texas Boys Ranch, and then after that they started doing more local, ag-related scholarships and raising money for scholarships for kids around here. So it was a good give back too. So the money was going to scholarships for kids that lived in this area. So it's just kind of how it evolved over the years.
How long were you the chairman of it, Trey?
I was the chairman of the steer open for Guy Hawkins and I for probably 3 or 4 years. We kind of chaired it, and then I did it for another I don't remember, several. And then I kind of stepped away a few years ago. I guess I don't know. I probably did it 8 years or so, probably, Cody, I think. And it was good. The only thing that'd be bad about being the chairman of the Windy Ryon steer roping and then going out and competing in the steer roping is all those guys you couldn't get invitations to, and, that wasn't always so much fun. So we had to, you had to come up with a way to try to be fair and get everybody you wanted everybody to rope, but you only had 40 spots. And so you just we came up with some creative ways to give some alternate spots and still make sure everybody got, everybody that should be there was there. So
it's just a very prestigious roping,
Well, when you think about it, there's been so many jackpots have come and gone over the years, and for those like San Angelo and Windy Ryon and Ben Johnson and stuff to last that long, that's pretty cool. What are some of the headwinds you face when you're putting on a roping like that, Trey?
Sponsorship. Number one.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. That's just my opinion. Because you want to be able to have as much added money as you can, and you want especially the steer ropers. I always wanted them to, if I could get away with no stock charge, if I get away with, not having to, take a bunch of money out, and put it on the side to go to the charity, which sounds horrible, but I'm gonna kind of finish that up here in a minute. But that was my deal. It's like, let's get as much added money as we can, and let's make this thing pay, and then we'll go out and get other sponsorships if we, and make sure we get enough donation to the charity. Because at the end of the day, you are trying to raise money for a charity, and so I think that's sometimes the tougher thing to explain. When a guy looks at the payout, go, man, this didn't pay much. It didn't. You guys took out a lot, but all those ropings are there for a reason. They're typically there to raise money for some type of charity or scholarship, because most all of them are 501s, and it's just sometimes it's hard to make everybody happy. But I don't know. I think we did a pretty good job, and I think these other ropings, look at some of these ropings now, what they're doing. Look what the Spicer Griff's doing. Those guys have done an incredible job as well. You guys have done an incredible job, Angelo. I think you're getting more and more people, those kind of ropings. Everybody wants to come and watch them, and they want to come see, and because there's usually always a great match roping. And I don't know. I think they're just really well put on.
Jimbo, that Spicer grip is really something else. That roping out there.
I've never been, but
it's every discipline too, which is so good, and it's the best of the best because they're all right there rodeoing in that vicinity anyway. Headed from Dodge City over to Lovington, New Mexico, and it's just a good roping. It's one of the best ropings I've ever been to. You're right, Trey. That is one heck of a good roping.
Oh, I tell you what, they do an outstanding job. Not taking away anything from anybody, but I mean they've just really, really done a great job there, and it's been good for all of us. Yep, and it's their event. I think one of the things that is tough. It's I won't say it's a captive audience, but it's kind of their rodeo. Where Fort Worth, you had the Windy Ryon on Memorial Day weekend. Well, you're competing against a lot of other tickets, so to get people there sometimes was a little bit tough. Especially on a Saturday or Sunday. So you really wanted to have a good event, and we did. I think of all the times Roy matched there and Joe, and I mean some of the match ropings that were there were just unbelievable. But anyway, I think Roy did as much to get that going early as anybody, because he'd match every year, and it was always fun watching.
Kind of like Jim Bob at San Angelo, that just kind of made that steer roping. Yep.
And they used to, I remember at Windy Ryon, and I don't know if you guys did it up there, but they always had a combination roper champion. And, so whoever won the most money in the calf roping and the steer roping, they had a combination roper. And I think that usually just traded back and forth between Roy and Arnold Phelps every year, pretty much.
Trevor might have won a couple of them.
Yeah, if they'd have still been doing it, I think he might have won all of them.
Boy, howdy, you guys got a concentration of good ropers down there anymore. Everybody's down in y'all's country.
There's a lot. I mean, and there's more steer ropers than you think. I mean, nothing like up in y'all's country. I mean, that's the capital there. At Paul Huska, but we've got quite a few, and and the roping's able to draw people from, God, if we could draw some of the guys from Wyoming, and if I could get guys from New Mexico to come, I always thought that was a big win, and it meant that they were in the area and they were willing to come, or that they wanted to be at the roping. So,
oh yeah, Marty Jones, DeLynn Jones. Those guys from definitely came every year. I'm pretty sure DeLynn's won the roping there a time or two.
I think he did. Yeah, I'm certain he did.
I saw him the other day. Hadn't seen him in forever.
Really? I hadn't either. But I don't know, it's just been kind of fun to see, how watch it evolve over the years. And I always remember back when I was younger out there, and just from there to where it is now. And they set up a Windy Ryon Hall of Fame, and they did an induction this last May, right before the roping. And Jerry DeShawn was there, Gary Ledford, probably a couple more that I'm going to forget. But, you kind of forget that those guys, you don't forget about them, but they helped make that thing. And you always got to have that. You've got those guys that just help make those ropings, and it makes people want to come watch them. And that's what it's all about. If we can get people in the gate, you're putting on an event they really want to watch. The ropers have a good experience. They get, it pays good. The cattle are good. It just it makes for a good event.
What about old Tom Gipson? He's a good old buddy of ours. I knew him well. Jimbo, do you know Tom Gipson very well?
No, not well, but I knew him. He was in the seniors when I knew him. He had a lot to do with the seniors, and just a great guy. I knew him well enough to know he was a good guy.
Oh, he was a mad scientist, I think.
Yeah.
That guy invented all kind of stuff.
Yeah, he was smart. I knew that about him.
Hey, Trey, what can you tell us about old Tom? I know he was a good buddy of yours, too.
Oh, he was a prince of a man. I don't think there was a better friend to steer roping than Tom Gipson. I truly don't. I think that he did so much for so many. First off, he did so much for so many ropers that nobody knows about. He did it anonymously. He did so much for so many ropings, whether it was Cheyenne or whether it was, hell, he paid the stock charge at the Windy Ryon for years for the ropers, and nobody knew that. He didn't, he didn't want anybody to know that. And, but Tom, I loved him dearly. Just a great man. And, he was a roughneck in the oil field, and then he ended up having 18. I think that's right. 18 U.S. patents on coil tube drilling and hydraulics. Just a genius. I don't even know if he had a high school education. I'm pretty sure he didn't. But he loved the steer roping, and he'd tell stories, and he roped with all those guys. He was always working, but he'd go rope with James Allen, and he'd go rope with. Oh God, I can't even think of everybody's name, but and Tom roped good, but I don't think there was a bigger jokester than anybody in the world than Tom Gipson. He just a great guy. Loved him to death. He's the oldest man to win a check at Cheyenne in the steer roping.
How old was he?
Yep, I think he was 72.
Wow.
Or I think that's right. And he was in the steer roping. I think he won second in the round. And he was riding a horse he called Rowdy that he actually got from Guy Hawkins that Troy Tillard ended up with. And I think Troy made him horse of the year once or twice. And that horse came from Guy. And then Tom bought that horse, but he's the oldest man at Cheyenne to ever won a check.
No kidding. But I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, I could go on and on about him, but he just, just never met a better guy. But guy loved the steer roping. And what's funny is he called me. Yeah, oh gosh, this was Tom passed away probably 3 years ago now, and he was 92, I believe. And he called me and he said, "Trey, I'm 89. I think I want to at least tie one or two more steers down. Can you help me find a horse?" And I went, I was like, "Tom, I'll do whatever you want, but oh man, I don't know if I want to do that." But he was adamant about it. He loved the steer roping, and I remember I think he called Jason Evans as well, and we'd call each other, and I was like, "Jason, I don't want this to happen." He goes, "No, I don't either," but he was adamant about it. But Tom lived there at Eaton, Colorado. He was down here around Eastland for years, and sold his company, and then he lived up there at Eaton. But like I said, I know I'm babbling a little bit about it, but I just don't. He was so good to the steer ropers, and so many nobody knew it. He just did it. Whether it was added money or whatever it may be. And they've got, they're doing, Coyd Thompson's doing the Tom Gipson Memorial. And I think they had to postpone it this year, but they're going to, just because of the cattle situation, but I think he's going to for sure get it going either in the fall or next year.
His legacy even lives on to today. Anybody that ropes out there has probably seen the shoot help roping shoots and the shoot help stuff they're building, and that's all Tom's. That's all Tom's invention. In fact, one of the last times I seen him, it was right there at the Windy Ryon, and he was showing off his shoot help shoot to everybody. He'd walk through it and show how the back gate closed, and when you opened it up, when you walked out, it closed the front gate somehow, and then opened the back gate, and they look like handy boogers.
Oh, they are. He brought the first one down there, the Ryan, and he had it set up back behind there's an old horse barn down there, old 4-H barn on that place, and he had it set up behind there. And I said, "Tom, do you want to put it out here where everybody can see it?" He goes, "Nope. Let's just leave it right here. I just want to get some guys to come back and look at it and tell me what they think, and I want them to critique it because I know everybody will be here." And he'd take guys one at a time back there, and they'd do that. And like I said, he'd walk through that shoot. And at the time, it was way different than the final product that, that Austin's got now. And, Tom was Austin's granddad. And, he tinkered with that thing and just made an incredible chute. We love him. And, he was always coming up with stuff, whether it was a quick release on a team roping, for a healer, or, he was really working. He got me to come out a couple of times. We were looking at a livestock chute, a squeeze chute. He was trying to come up with a better way to build a hydraulic squeeze chute, and had all these incredible ideas. His mind never stopped working, and just an incredible man, an incredible gentleman.
Didn't him and Chris Glover, didn't they invent some sort of breakaway thing for your rope?
I think so. Yes, I think that's correct.
I see a lot of products similar to it now. They gave me a little package of them one time.
Yeah, and Chris and Tom were dear friends. So it was super sad to hear about him a few weeks ago. But God, they were good friends. So anyway, but he was always coming up with something, and you can see Austin. He's taking it and running with it. So I think that's great. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's great to see. It's great to see, and it's a great product. Anybody that needs a good rope and chute out there, I would definitely look into the Chute Help brand. It's a great brand, and it's a great roping family that puts them out. So I couldn't suggest them anymore.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about the Quinn beef. How'd you get into that? What's all about?
I don't know that my bankers would want to hear about that, but no, it's a smaller deal. We've always been in the cattle business, and we started this little deal. It's just a small. We got into something called Akaushi beef, which Akaushi is just a purebred Wagyu, the only one in the U.S. And anyway, we tasted it and tasted the beef and just kind of was like, wow, I didn't know it could be like that. And so we started raising a little bit of it. And next thing you know, during that COVID deal, we ended up doing a private label and trying to sell a little bit of beef. But it's been fun, do a lot of halves and quarters and whatnot. We're not at any stores or anything to speak of. But I guess kind of like Bluebell ice cream. What we don't sell, we eat. Yeah, so
there you go.
What about
pretty good
are you feeding them each a beer every day and massaging their body like they do over there in Japan?
I'm not doing that, Cody. But
you don't have a body massager getting your cattle ready, getting the beef ready?
No, if you can find somebody to do that for me, give me a call. But
I saw a video of those cattle in Japan. Jimbo, they'll take one of those Japanese beers and they'll turn it up like someone drinking it. They love drinking that. Do you ever see that, Trey?
I did, yeah. I think that's that A5 that they do that with, and ours is not that. Ours is, it's a good product. We really like it. Get us, we kind of cattle do good. Little different temperament, but good cattle, and so we've enjoyed doing it for sure. Just small. This is kind of a small deal we do, but it's been fun. It's been fun.
I gotta say, there's probably a growing demand for that Wagyu beef, American Wagyu beef around here, around anywhere, right?
It looks good. I've never had any.
Yeah, I think there is. I think it's just anything that, honestly, I think there's a different segment that really wants to know where their product's coming from, where like you or I or Jimbo, we might feed out an animal and we can do that relatively easy, right? Well, a lot of these folks that live in town can't, and they want to know where their animal, where their beef's coming from. And I think once they're tasting, whether it's ours or there's so many out there, 2F is a great product. 44, I mean, they want to know where their product's coming from. And I just think there's an opportunity for us as producers to show people that, hey, these cattle being raised properly. They're, we're doing everything right, because if we don't do everything right, we can't. There's no margin in it for us. We can do it 1 year, but that's it. And so I think we get a lot of those questions, and we answer them and just let them know where the product's coming from, and how we're raising them, and how we're processing. And so, I do think there's definitely a market for it, for sure.
Well, if anybody's looking for any of that good stuff, get a hold of Quinn Beef over there. They got the top notch.
Well, thanks.
The American Wagyu.
Yeah.
It sounds good.
It does. Look on their Facebook page. You talk about looking good. It makes you hungry just looking at it.
I was in Vegas a while back, and I had a choice between, I don't know, some kind of Wagyu, Australian Wagyu, or American Wagyu. I went for the American Wagyu.
There you go. You're a patriot.
Yeah.
That's right.
Absolutely. That's the way to do it. Yeah.
What about you're kind of in on a hat company too, ain't you?
Oh man. Yeah, we are. We're partners with a good friend. His name's J.W. Brooks, and his wife Jody, and it's basically my wife and I, Amy. And they're the talent, and we're we do the admin for it. So it's J.W. Brooks Custom Hats. So it's been a fun venture, and he's just an incredible talent. His brother's Wayne Brooks, announcer, and but JW, he's just a super talented guy. So we've been doing. He's been building hats for 35 years, and he's one of the best. Hell, I met him at Pendleton we were up there open in 2010, and he was selling hats out on the, out there in the palm. I don't know what you call it, but where you go up to the stands there. I was like, what in the heck is this guy doing? Anyway, we got to talking, and next thing you know, he measures my wife, and he goes, you want me to measure you? And I said, well, I'll tell you what, you make her a hat. If I like it, when it gets home, I'll buy one from you. Well, hell, I just didn't have any money to buy me one. So we made her a hat, got it about 3 months later. It's still her favorite hat. And that was 15 years ago she wears it. And we've just gotten to be good friends. And we're partners. And but again, he's a talent. He and Jody, his wife, are the talent. We just kind of help out a little bit. So
I tell you what, Jimbo, Trey was down here the other day, and he had one of those hats on, and they do look like some of the best quality hats a guy can get, because I have trouble finding a hat that I like that's a good hat.
Right.
And that J.W. Brooks line that they're doing is or custom one from J.W., I'd say that's one of the ways to go. And in fact, I was down at National Roper Supply last week, and they were pushing in pallets, like two or three pallets of these hats into the store when I was there. I meant to call and tell you about that the other day, Trey. But yeah, they were putting out, I don't know, it looked like a couple hundred of J.W. Brooks hats on the store floor.
Yeah, they were one of the first wholesale accounts, and they, it's been good. I think it's been great for NRS, and I know it's been good for us. And that's a big thing for the hat business for sure. And anyway, I can't. He's a talented guy. He's always coming up with a new idea. He'll call me. He's like, "What about this?" I was like, "Man, I don't know. You're the talent. Just let's do it." Just my first question was, "Hey, what does that cost?" So, what's that going to cost to do it? But no, just a great. He and Jody are unbelievable. So it's been fun. It's been really fun.
They got one called a summer felt that looks really nice, Jimbo. It's extra thin, extra great hard felt, and they put some cool looking eyelet deals on the side of it. Very nice hats. Heck, if anyone's looking for a new hat, I would definitely go for a J.W. Brooks hat right now. It's they just look like top notch, top quality. I mean, a good hat is seriously hard to find. So,
Wonder where you can get them in Oklahoma or Kenya.
I'm not sure. Got to order them in.
I don't think we can. He can send them up there. I don't think we have a place up there, but I bet we can work on it.
Well, if I knew how to shape hats worth a darn, I'd be a great retailer for you, but I got to have someone that can shape them. I'm real good at passing out and sleeping in mine, I think.
Yeah, you and me both.
Putting one of those bad shapes in it. Well, what else are you doing down there, Trey?
That's about it. We chasing some kids. Well, my kids are in college now, so I don't have to chase them as far. But that's really it. We're just got our little cattle deal and doing a few of these things. Not getting to rope much, but now that my daughter's in college, maybe I'll rope a little bit. I'm probably too old to do it anymore, but I'd sure like to try once more. So
now that I've kind of quit roping, I haven't found anything to replace that, in my life besides work, do more work. That's my only hobby besides thinking about how I used to could rope a little bit.
You could probably and still can, but we've been, I don't know, we mess with quite a few horses and that way, but now that my daughter is my youngest is in college, we're not, the reining horse deal's kind of done. So maybe I can actually afford a horse now that she's there. The reining horses make steer horses look cheap. So
yeah, all this stuff my kids are getting into makes steer roping look pretty cheap. So
I never thought I'd say that, but now that's the way it is.
Yeah, now that I can actually afford to go to a few steer ropings, I ain't got the time or want to work that hard to do it anymore. So,
oh man, I sure like it, but it's anyway. We'll see. Maybe we'll get something done.
Well, Trey, if you were putting together a Mount Rushmore of steer ropers, who would you put on there? 4 names.
Oh man, I've heard y'all ask that question a bunch. Different disciplines.
Well, you've seen them all through the years, growing up, going to the post roping, being part of the Windy Ryon roping since you can remember.
I put obviously Guy Allen. He'd have to be there for me. Also Trevor, because Trevor backed in the box. I'd make sure I always was there to watch. A guy that there's no telling how much he could have won if that's all he did. But he's just incredible.
Such a businessman with a rope, no doubt.
Oh my gosh,
straight up businessman with a rope and everything else.
Yeah, and a horseman, and the other would be Rocky Patterson. I think Rocky ropes as good as. Obviously he's got 4 world championships, and I don't know. There's a guy that handled cattle better than him, in my opinion, and still does. I love to watch Rocky rope, and not that you want this detail, but I remember when he started tripping. It was at Cactus Feed Yard in 1990 because I was pulling out with he was dating Shelley Lookinville, and I was working for her dad at the feed yard. And we were pulling out, and I asked Steve Lookinville, I go, what's Rocky doing over there? He said, I think he's going to start tripping steers. And I was like, oh, wow, I want to go hang out with him. And he's like, no, you don't need to do that. But it worked out a lot better for Rocky than anybody. But, I guess if there was a last one, just for what he did, I'd put Tom Gipson for me. That's for me. Because I just think he did so much and such a great guy. And, he didn't want any recognition for it, but there wasn't a better friend of the steer roper than Tom Gipson, in my opinion. So that'd be my 4.
That's a pretty good Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I'm glad you could come up with 4 names. Most people fumble on that 4th one.
Yeah.
There's so many guys that are so good, and there's talent's unbelievable. So it's hard to, if you had to put another face or two. There's so many guys you can name. Bucky Hefner. I just think of all those guys and so many guys that live within 100 miles of you guys that they could all go on there.
Yeah, there's just a bunch of them, but that's a great list you came up with. Yep. You can't argue with Trevor, Guy, Rocky Patterson, and then Tom Gipson, just as a great friend of the steer ropers, great supporter of steer roping.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
I'll tell you one Tom Gipson story before we get off here. My dad tells it all the time. He said they got done roping somewhere, and Tom was sitting on the old bumper of his car. He was just rubbing his knee and just going, oh. And, my dad walks up there and says, Tom, you all right? He said, yeah, hurt my knee pretty bad, Rock. Mind unsaddling my horse there? Oh, no problem, Mr. Tom. Mr. Tom unsaddles his horse. He said, whew. You mind going and water him for me real quick before I go? He said, no, I don't mind at all. So he went and watered him. He said, Rock, will you hook my truck and trailer on for me? This old thing's just killing me. Anyway, he hooks his truck and trailer on, loads his horse for him and everything, and then he said after that, Tom just jumped up and nothing was wrong with him, and he said, well, Rock, I guess I'll catch you later, and he skipped to his truck and got in there.
Yep.
He was always doing that. I'll tell you one story real quick, and I'll be done. But I remember when I first met him, and he said, Trey, we were out at his house there at Eastland, and I'd been out there roping a little bit, and I went down there to untie a steer, and I pulled that string off, and it had two knots tied around it,
I know what you're talking
braided
about.
Braided around it, and I didn't say anything. I just kind of took it and I handed it back to him, and we were walking back to the box, and he said, yeah, had the damn rule committee made me do that. And I go, what did they make you do, Tom? He goes, well, they made me put these braids on these strings right here. And I was like, really? Why? He goes, well, I was too fast. They wanted to slow me down. They said I ran my string too fast. And I just kind of went, I hadn't known him very long at that time. And I was like, oh, really? And I took a few steps. I turned around and looked at him, and he was dying laughing. He was like, but he was missing some fingers on one hand, so he did that so he could grip that string better. Anyway, he's always
he had a couple like little horn knot deals tied around on his string, and had him positioned in a certain spot.
Yeah,
so he could grab it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I untied many of his cattle, and I noticed those knots. And he told me the same story one time, Trey.
You probably didn't fall for it like I did. I
didn't know. Shoot, I was like, good Lord, what? But
I just assumed everything was true that he told me. I learned later that. Anyway.
He was quite the jokester, no doubt about it. I'm glad we got to talk about Tom a little bit today.
Yeah.
Just
bring
his memory up for everybody to listen to.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. He's just a super guy.
Well, Trey, we appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. Heck, we've already been talking over an hour here. So,
well, I appreciate you guys calling. I hope. Honored that you'd call me. I love talking about the Windy Ryon and what they've done out there. And I appreciate it very much.
Yes, sir.
So,
well, everybody, if you need some good American beef, get a hold of Trey Quinn Beef. If you need a damn good hat, get you a J.W. Brooks felt hat. I can guarantee you there's not one better. I saw them, and that's going to be my next hat as soon as I get my head measured. So,
good deal.
Good try. Give them a try, everyone. You will not regret it. And I sure appreciate you too, Trey, for coming on today and telling us all about the Windy Ryon. Love talking about Tom and all the other stuff too. So,
heck yeah, Cody. Jimbo, thank you.
Yeah.
It was really enjoyed it, guys.
We did too.
All right. Well, we'll see everybody on the first and third Thursday every month. Thank you, Trey.
Later.
Yes, sir.